As the country continues to battle the coronavirus pandemic, President Biden's proposing an aggressive spending program to support the economy, saying failure to do so now could cause irreversible damage.
There is an overwhelming consensus among the major economists at home and in the world that the way to avoid a deeper recession moving in the direction of losing our competitive capacity is to spend money now. From across the board, every major institution has said, if we don't invest now, we're going to lose so much altitude in terms of our employment base and our economic growth, it's going to be harder to reestablish it.
Spend more money now to avoid a deeper recession, eh? Sounds like quite a plan. Here to break down the $1.9 trillion economic package is Trish Regan, host of the daily podcast Trish Intel. Trish, good to see you.
Hey, good to see you, Buck.
Let's start with what your expectations are with Bidenomics, I guess we could call them. Now he's the president. He's got a crisis to face, and they're talking about spending a lot of money. What do you see happening here, Trish, and what's this going to mean for all of us?
I think it's going to be slow growth. It's going to be a lot of debt, and it's going to haunt us for generations. I don't like what they're doing at all. Look, call me old-fashioned, but I believe in a pretty simple approach here, which is giving it back to the people, Buck. In other words, lower taxes, lessen the burden on the individual. That's not what they're doing. I mean, look, right now they're trying to tell us we got to go open up all these economies, right? King Cuomo, as I like to call him in New York, is saying we have to open the New York economy, otherwise we have nothing to come back to. You've got Lord Newsom on the other coast who's talking about, well, we got to get back to business, right? We've got to reopen the economy. Very interesting timing, by the way, given that their guy is now in charge. But I've said from the beginning, you can't shut the economy. You can't close down our economy. That's effectively all we have, right? And you need a strong economy to fight this thing. So while you should be taking the proper measures, right, to protect people with pre-existing conditions, doing everything you can to get the vaccines out there into the public, you can't just say, okay, we're going to throw money at this problem and we're going to take from you and give to her and give to him so that we can try and, comfort everyone during this crisis. No, I think we should be smarter than this. We should be more strategic than this. And we're better than this. This is going to cause long-term problems from which we are not going to be able to dig ourselves out.
There's certainly an ideological push on all this as well. We've already seen Joe Biden effectively canceling the Keystone XL pipeline. This is estimated to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of 11,000 jobs, over $1 billion of lost wages. Today, Senator Ted Cruz pushed on this issue. I wanted to have you react to it. Here's what he said.
Last week, President Biden signed an executive order canceling the Keystone Pipeline, destroying 11,000 jobs, including 8,000 union jobs. If you were confirmed as Secretary of Commerce, what would you say to those 11,000 construction workers whose jobs have been destroyed by the stroke of a pen, and what would you say to them?
I would say we're going to get you to work. I would say that climate change is a threat to all of us, and that we will make sure that you have jobs, that you have the skills you need to have a job. And by the way, as we meet the needs of climate change, there will be many more jobs created.
I'm going to go on a limb here, Trish, and say that those construction workers who have lost their jobs don't want to lecture on climate change.
Yeah, we're going to fix it for you. Listen, I have a lot of problems with what's happening right now on this whole climate change thing. A very smart economist once said to me many years ago, Buck, one of the things you don't need to worry about in the U.S. is our ability to meet an occasion. For example, he said, if we were to suddenly run out of fossil fuels tomorrow, we'd be there with some alternative energy source. You think about that in terms of the vaccine, right? We got hit with this virus out of nowhere, or seemingly out of China. And we came forward with not one vaccine, but 2 vaccines within the year and a third now on the way. So the reality is we can meet whatever crisis we are presented with. That's sort of in our DNA at this point as a country and as an economy. But if we try to pick the winners and losers, I'm afraid we're going to have a whole bigger set of problems. And this is exactly what's happening right now, even on Wall Street, right? The world's biggest asset manager, BlackRock, is now saying they're looking at everything through this sort of sustainability prism. And their former head of sustainability is now head of the Economic Council, conveniently enough, over in Biden's administration. And so you're going to see a real effort on behalf of Wall Street combined with government to try and regulate, if you would, these energy companies and energy industry right out of business. Well, you do that, and there's a lot of unintended consequences, certainly from the economic side, even from the geopolitical side. I mean, you think about Canada, right? Canada, our friend that we were going to do this pipeline with. And I'm hearing Canadians are furious, and they're already thinking about, well, maybe we should talk to the Chinese. The
Justin
Chinese
Trudeau,
are doing a pipeline with Russian and China. Hey, why not? Why not pursue that? I mean, there's a lot of geopolitical and economic interests that are going to be very vulnerable as a result.
I was going to say, Justin Trudeau, who is not a man of the right for sure, he's furious about this. He's like, what are you doing? All this means, the canceling of the Keystone XL pipeline, is that you're going to have rail cars which have more CO2 imprint, more CO2. They're going to be transmitting this. It's crazy.
Yeah. So we're annoying Canada, our great ally. We are encouraging them to have friends elsewhere in the world. I mean, look, we did it in Latin America, right? You got the Chinese, the Russians, the Iranians all down in Venezuela because, we couldn't figure things out there. This is the Western Hemisphere. Last I checked, the Monroe Doctrine is still applicable. We ought to be able to sort of have our ducks in a row from an energy standpoint in this particular part of the world. Now, I get it. You want green energy. You know what, Buck? Tesla's a cool car, right? Cool technology. And if you can save money on gas, it's well worth it. Well, if I make a decision to buy a Tesla, that's a consumer-driven decision. I much prefer consumer-driven decisions as opposed to government and, a couple of investors that are picking the winners and losers out there, their decisions.
Now, we have some recent news here about possible reopenings in different states. Some places have already begun the process. They've put their toe in the pool, so to speak, of reopening their economies. You've got a bunch of different leaders who are saying they're going to lift some of the restrictions. Now, granted, we are in, here you go. You've got California lifting stay-at-home order and curfew. Governor Cuomo says some COVID restrictions may be lifted immediately. Chicago is saying that they may start opening bars and restaurants. Now, if this was all based on clear evidence with regard to where the curve is and the numbers and hospitalizations, perhaps it would seem less political to some people, Trish, but it's very hard to see. Here we are, 1 week into the Biden term, and all of a sudden, without any massive change in vaccination numbers, without any massive change in how the cases are going across the country. I mean, they're down 10 to 15% from where they were, but that's not what people had in mind when they thought this would all come to a reopen. What's going on here?
Politics. I mean, Buck, this is what I said from the beginning. This is what landed me in so much trouble with the left because I dared to call it out back in March. This virus has been politicized. COVID-19 is a scary thing. I realize, it's killed a lot of people and it's awful, okay? But when you think about what we've done to ourselves, right? These self-inflicted wounds, if you would, economically, in terms of destroying people's livelihoods, it's really and truly a tragedy. Gavin Newsom was fine shutting it all down. Chicago, great example. Saturday night, now the bars are open in Chicago. Why? Because their guy took office on Wednesday. What is so magical about now? I mean, think about it. You got 2 new strains of this virus making their way into this country. And now they're suddenly going to open up. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I mean, I'm just looking for some consistency here. And if you thought it was so scary before, back in July, when everybody could happily sit outside, why is it okay now in the middle of the flu season, by the way? I'm happy they're opening up. We need to open up. I'm all for that. But I truly do question the politics of this. I think it's pretty evident what's going on. They stomped their feet until their guy won. Their guys now, and gal, is in office. And now suddenly America can open back up. What do you know?
Trish Regan, everybody. Trish Regan's Trish Intel podcast, something you should all check out. Go to trishintel.com. Trish, good to see you.